What up, peeps? Nick Battle, aka Nino's Corner, man. Hey, Texas just thoroughly dismantled Florida, man. 49-17. Wait for you guys to come in with some comments in this game, man. Great game by the Texas Longhorns overall. Quinn Ewers had a really good game. 19 for 30. No, I'm sorry, 19 for 27, 333 yards. 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. Great game by Quinn. Great runs also, man, by Jared Gibson coming in that second half. Although he did have a fumble, but he had a long run today of 25 yards, and also had a touchdown. Great game by the wide receivers, man. Texas is so deep at wide receiver, so just kind of going through the names, man. Jaden Blue being the second back off the bus here, man. He led everybody in receiving today. 3 catches for 67 yards. Matthew Golden, 3 catches, 2 touchdowns. That's all he does is just catch touchdowns here, for Quinn Ewers. Trey Wisner, great game when it comes to catching the ball out of the backfield too as well. 3 catches for about 59 yards and a touchdown as well. I think he had a 50-yard catch as well. So Isaiah Bond, 3 catches, 55 yards for a touchdown. Garner Helm, 3 catches, 42 yards for a touchdown. Silas Bowden, 2 for 33. DeAndre Moore Jr., 2 for 22. It just kind of shows you just how deep this Texas wide receiver room is, and then also how Quinn likes to spread the ball around, not only just to his wide receivers, but also to his running backs as well. Garner Helm had a really good game too as well from that tight end position, and we also had some catches here by the backup tight ends as well from Juan Davis and also Nye Black as well. Texas defense showed up, and they showed out also, folks. So Texas defense did very well. We had a showing today, folks, from the Sadir Mitchell, man. Just having him back in the team, you just saw just how big this kid was, man. And when he popped on the screen, it's like, who is 90? And I was like, that's Sadir Mitchell, man. So it's good to see that he's back on the field. Seems like he's actually bought into the team here, again, he's playing, just good as well. Also, man, let's look at Anthony Smith. Great game by him too as well, with a interception too as well. Also, Andrew Makuba coming back from injury with a pick too as well. Also, man, the Texas defense really shut down, Florida. Even though we understand Florida's pretty decimated here, they're down DJ Lagway. They're down Mertz, so they're top 2, guys when it comes to quarterbacks. They're down their starting, running back, and also their best wide receiver, and probably their best offensive lineman, in the right guard, so Damian George. But Texas did what they're supposed to do. They came in and they handled business. The game was pretty much over after halftime. Halftime, it was 35-0, so we kind of understood that the game was kind of over there. But Texas came in, handled business, and they did more than what I thought they were going to do. Anybody that watches Texas play understands that Sark usually does just enough to win the games. And he's not going to really put too much on tape and put too much on the camera. He's going to do what's effective, and what's efficient here for the team to win. But for this game, man, they came out and they were pretty much, all gas, no brakes. All right. And so they ended up winning this game very handedly. One thing that this game actually allowed Texas to do was they got into such a big lead here in the first half. Texas was able to, play some of their second string guys, so some of their third string guys too as well. So it was an opportunity for these guys to get some valuable minutes, some valuable playing time here against a quality opponent. Even though Florida is now 4-5, let's be honest, Florida is not a bad team, folks. They're down, some key people, but Florida is a very, very stingy team on defense. So for Texas to kind of score like they did against Florida, was really good. But Florida's defense is very stingy. Florida plays hard. Florida just had one of the toughest schedules, I think, in the SEC this year. They start with Texas, and I think they have Ole Miss too as well. They had Georgia, prior to us. They have a stretch with LSU. I mean, they have one of the toughest schedules here in the SEC, them, and I think Oklahoma as well. So this is a 4-5 team that, with an easier schedule, could have been a much better team record-wise. I think the school actually understood that, and that's what they gave the vote of confidence, to bring in Napier here to make sure that his job is safe for next year. But Texas had a great game here today, folks. You beat teams that are down the way that they're supposed to be beaten. That's what Texas did today. Leading rusher for the game, folks, was Jared Gibson. He had a lot of run here in the second half, to the tune of 16 carries, 100 yards and a touchdown. He had that costly fumble too as well, but young player, true freshman make true mistakes. However, it's best that they make those true mistakes um, in moments like this and not in moments that matter. Right. So that's what you gotta like, is that you're seeing that these guys are getting the opportunity to play in some meaningful snaps in some meaningful games and able to make some mistakes, but these are coachable mistakes. Texas was also able to get Arch Manning in. So he had to tune what 3 for 6 for 19 yards. So having Arch actually come to the game, he had some plays extended as well, which one got nullified because, if I'm not mistaken, Trevor Gooseby, he was a man down the field who shouldn't have been down the field, and so that play got called back. I think Arch kind of scrambled, and he got the ball out to Silas Bolden, but the play was wiped away due to the lineman down the field. But talking about Trevor Gooseby, he came in pinch time when Cam Williams went out with a lower leg injury. I think it was a lower leg injury on his right leg, and he couldn't put any pressure on that leg, so it was kind of alarming to that. However, he came in on Archer's first drive, and then they took him out. So it looks like hopefully that injury is not as bad as it looked when he came off the field. But when he came off the field, so Trevor Goosey was the first guy off the bench to come in and play right tackle. I think we've been hearing from the, just from the back channels that Trevor Gooseby is probably going to be the guy that's going to take over for that left tackle position once Banks leaves and goes to the league. However, for him to come in as that backup right tackle kind of says that he is like the swing guy here in the team. A lot of folks thought that maybe that would have been 5-star Brandon Baker, to come in, as that true freshman. But a guy like Trevor Goosey's been in, here in the system for a couple years now, gives him an opportunity to get some snaps too as well, and shows his versatility. Trevor Goosey is one of those guys who, if I'm not mistaken, was doing windmill dunks and everything as 6'4", 6'5", 270-pound, 275-pound kid in high school. He was doing windmill dunks at 16 and 17 years old, playing basketball with that kind of size. Now you're seeing with him packing on the weight to be a guy who was 300 plus, to be versatile, to play left tackle as well as the right tackle position. And he is the swing tackle to come off of the bench if, like somebody gets hurt. So good to see that happening. But Texas thoroughly dominated this game. Sark was in his bag. One thing that really got me was the 4th and 1 play. I think we're at the Texas 21 or 22 yard line. My dad's here actually for the weekend, so I was like, "Hey man, I'm not comfortable going with it 4th and 1. We got a 14-point lead, I think at the time. Just punt the ball." Oh, no, it was a 7-point lead. So I was like, "Hey, punt the ball." But Texas ends up going for it, and Texas gets it. And then the next play, Texas does this really nice play. It was a reverse. It went to Isaiah Bond, and Bond actually rushed the ball for about 44 yards, and that set up the touchdown for Texas to go up 14-0. And Texas never looked back since then. But just a great game by the Texas defense. Great game by the Texas offense as well. Guys that popped up on defense, man, were, I got to give some props to the defensive line. They look pretty good. So Trey Moore had a sack today too as well. I think it was his first sack here for the season. Colin Simmons pops off every time that he's on the screen. He's a certified 5-star. He's a guy that I think is only going to be here 3 years as well. Anthony Hill, man. He's going to be everywhere. But having Andrew Makuba come back, was just awesome for this team. Just for the simple fact that, look, I'm a big fan. I love me some Jelani McDonald, and I think he is going to be the future here in the secondary. But it was good to to actually see Andrew actually come back and have his stamp put on the game. So having him back there, with 25, and also having him back there, with Michael Taft, man. I love Taft. I love McDonald. I love Makuba. We're going to need that depth here as this team goes on for the next 3 games. And then hopefully into the SEC championship game, and hopefully into the playoffs here. But you need that depth because we're already short, with Derek Williams not playing here because of his injury as well. But the secondary played pretty good, man. So Barron, he's solid. I think he's playing himself into a 1st-round draft pick. So Jalen Gilbo, he's another one of those guys that comes in with a huge sack on a 3rd down. Plays the ball very physical against the run. He's just awesome. He's just really amazing when it comes to that. So Manny Muhammad, he's another guy. He just doesn't get beat much, So Manny's going to be a guy that, with his range and his length, so he's going to be one of those guys that is well, not going to be one of those guys. He's already one of those guys who is able to be a plus player from the start, man. So you got to love what you're seeing out of this out of this Texas secondary, and the linebackers, man. So seeing guys like LaFau, Anthony Hill, but seeing Ty Anthony Smith come in, and I didn't think he was going to make that much of an impact in his freshman year, but man, I tell you what, Ty Anthony Smith, when I watched him play in high school, he was like a heat-seeking, like missile. There's a target there, he's a boom, get it right. He's just one of those guys. But I just thought he was too slight. Well, look, he's come into Texas and he's taking that approach to the weight room very serious. And you're seeing that the build that he is getting here is that he is becoming a prototypical linebacker because that's what he plays, right? He is one of those guys that's played linebacker. You can tell for the, just for the majority of his life here, man. And he looks really good at doing it. I think next year you see him. You're seeing a LaFau. You're seeing an Anthony Hill. You're seeing a linebacker core that is going to be very, very formidable next year. And I like what I'm seeing, man. It's going to give Coach PK a lot of options there at that linebacker position, because if you got those guys that are waiting in the wings, like with a Smith, and he's behind an Anthony Hill and a LaFau, it's going to be awesome to see just the maturation process of him. And to see where he is going to be within the next year or two, but he's already looking good. So Jordan Johnson-Rebel, I think he got some snaps in the day too. I know last week we saw guys like we saw Phil Simi get some snaps, but look, honestly, I just have to look at the game again and just look at the jersey numbers and see who was playing. But the team played so well today. It's just better than what I thought they were going to play. I think I had this game pegged at like 37-13, but they bested that 49-17. I'll take it any day of the week here for the Texas Longhorns, man. Anything that was alarming here for this game for me was, I think towards the end, Texas gave up, some pretty big runs here. Well, I wouldn't say big runs, but it looked like Florida was very consistent with the running game here in the second half. So Jacoby Jackson, he had 19 carries for 116 yards and a touchdown. So Jaden Baugh, he also looked pretty good, 19 carries for 88 yards. Look, to be honest with you, they almost rushed for 200 yards, 41 rushes to the tune of 197 yards, but that's taken into account, the quarterback sacks, which were 3 carries. For -7 yards, so, but if you take that out of the equation, they rushed between their 2 running backs, 38 times for 204 yards. That's kind of the alarming thing, but a lot of that was in garbage time at the end of the game when Texas was already up 35-0 and was pulling away, was it 42-10 at one point, right? So Texas played a lot of backups, which is something that I think Sark needed to do probably sooner than what happened. All right. So there's a scary moment there, right? When Silas Bowden, he gets the punt return and there's a little catch, a little kick catch, the interference call there where he got hit and he got hit pretty hard. And I didn't know if Silas was going to come back because that looked like that was something that could have got the ribs pretty good. But he ended up coming back and almost made a great play in that next drive. But it was good to see just the versatility of this Texas defense and this Texas offense and just how deep this team is. This team is doing very well, like when it comes to getting the players out of the portal, but also looking at just the guys across the board who they have, got through the recruiting process and have developed here on this team. You're seeing a great mix and a great blend of talent that Texas has gotten. When you look at the Texas rushing, right, you're looking at guys that were all Texas homegrown guys, right? These are, like Trey Wisner, Colin Page is to walk on, Jaden Blue. He's a guy that, like we got out of Houston Klein and then Jared Gibson out of this freshman class. But then you get a nice reverse from a guy that you got from the transfer portal in Isaiah Bunn for the 44-yard rush that set up that second touchdown. When you look at the Texas receiving, you're looking at just a mixed bag of homegrown talent, guys that Texas has gotten out of the cycles and also developed into plus players here, and also some guys from the portal. Jaden Blue, homegrown talent, a guy that Texas recruited and has developed over 3 years. Matthew Golden, the guy that Texas got out of the portal from Houston. Wisner, a guy that we recruited, coming from, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, DeSoto, Texas. Isaiah Bond, a guy out of the portal. Gunnar Helm, a guy that we really developed, a guy that sat behind a guy like JT Sanders for some time. And now we're looking at Gunnar Helm as being one of the most complete, one of the best tight ends here in the country. And shout out to Gunnar Helm. He's one of my favorite players. Anytime that he does something great, I'm always rooting for Gunnar Hill because we've seen him stay the course, wait his turn, and do what he's supposed to do to be able to get in that field. And this is a great story to show that even though if you don't start your first year or two and you have to be developed, he's been developed, and now you're seeing what development looks like and what it can get you at the next level. And we know that Gunnar Helm is going to be a plus player that's going to get drafted and be playing on Sundays next year. Silas Bowden is the next guy on the list. He's a receiver out of the portal, right? DeAndre Moore Jr., somebody that we developed, right? Juan Davis, somebody that we developed, somebody who, actually came here and went to Texas to go to Texas, to play for Texas. Ryan Wingo, somebody that we got out of the class this year, freshman that we recruited. And Knoblauch, a guy out of the portal. You're seeing a great blend of talent here on the Texas side of the house, excuse me, from guys that we have gotten from the recruiting cycles and developed into plus players, and also guys that we have gotten from the portal to be plus players as well. So that's what we're seeing, that Texas has this great blend. You see that Steve Sarkisian has definitely understood the assignment on what it takes to build a team from the bottom up, from the line up, from the defensive line up as well. And we're seeing that coupled with his strategy of getting great players out of the portal. We're seeing what Texas is doing and what Texas can do. I want to take a look at just some of the defensive stats, man. Texas played really good defense today. Let's see. For some reason, my defensive stats aren't pulling up for Texas. I have no idea. So, anyways, great win by Texas, man. 49-17. You can't knock it. You gotta love what you're seeing here from Texas. Texas has definitely brought all the game that they could to this game today, man. Just playing against Florida. This could have been easily one of those games where Texas is coming off of a bye, and Texas could have kind of eased off the brakes here and kind of looked ahead, because we got Arkansas next week. And anybody that knows Texas versus Arkansas, that is one hell of a game. Arkansas hates Texas with a passion. I don't know if the kids here at Texas know how much, the folks, hate us in Arkansas. But yeah, it's a very different atmosphere, man. But let's take a look also, defense side of the ball. Trey Moore had a great showing today. He had 4 tackles, folks, 2 tackles for a loss. The sacks we got today were from Jalen Gilbo. I think that was the only sack today. And when we're looking at passes defended, Alfred Collins, Malik Muhammad, Jade Barron, those guys had passes defended. Michael Taft was all over the place. When you start to look at Michael Taft's stats, man, shout out to my boy, Nash Toss Texas on Twitter. So he put up an interesting stat there that kind of showed the numbers of Taft versus, Caleb Downs that plays for Ohio State, and just how similar they are. One is a Thorpe finalist, and one is a previous walk-on who was starting for the number 5 team in the country in Michael Taft. But Michael Taft is one of those athletic freaks who didn't have an offer to Texas originally. But I think Steve Sarkisian saw him have like a one-handed interception, I think in the state championship game. He's like, let me see that guy. Who was that? Bring him on as a PWO, as a preferred walk-on. And we see what he's been able to do here at Texas. He's been able to, just kind of get his way into that starting lineup, and he hasn't given it back, at all. He's always around. He's always run the ball at the right times. And he's just a player that plays extremely well and extremely hard. And you can tell he's a player that wants to play for Texas and not at Texas. Texas is the school that he's always wanted to play for, growing up as a kid at Austin Westlake. Other players that had good games, man. We can take a look. I loved seeing Sadir Mitchell out there, man. I already told you guys that from the start. It was good to see him out there. Kobe Black, man. Kobe Black's going to be a plus player next year, man. I think next year we're going to be able to see starting cornerbacks, man, of probably Manny Muhammad and Kobe Black. And then you kind of couple that, folks, on the back end with, Derek Williams and probably Taft and McDonald, and probably at the star, Jalen Gilbo still at the star. This team is loaded. Sark has done an outstanding job on this defense side of the ball as far as getting the talent out there, to where Texas has a plethora of talent that if somebody goes down, they are still fine with how the game is going to go and how it's going to shake out, even with one of your top players out, a la us not having Derek Williams here right now. But Colin Simmons showed out today too as well, folks. And I love Mr. Leona LaFalle, man. Leona LaFalle is a great story here at Texas. Ethan Burke, man, was a Ethan Burke was an honorable mention All Big 12 performer last year, and this has got to have come out the bench now with depth. I mean, think about that for a minute. He's getting a lot of starters, like quality reps, but he's coming off the bench as depth behind Trey Moore and also behind Barron Terrell. And you gotta love Barron Terrell, man. Tough. And that was not a roughing the passer play for Barron Terrell. Come on, NCAA, get that better. The ball comes out, he hits him pretty well, and it just is what it is, man. But hey, folks, leave some comments in there. Let me know what you think about this game, man. Texas defeats Florida 49-17. Quinn Ewers shuts up the haters today, man. 19 for 27 for 333. 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. He understands that when he is rocking and he is doing what he's supposed to do, this team can be very unstoppable if Quinn is confident. And I know that they got a lot of crap this past week with Gunnar Helm saying that Quinn, once he gets his confidence back, but I don't think that was a bad thing by Gunnar. I think what Gunnar was just saying is that it's just like anybody else, man. Any job that you have, in your profession, there are going to be times in your job where you have a slump, all right? And just is what it is. Whether you play football, whether you're an accountant, whether you're a agent for real estate or something, everybody has a slump in their profession. Quinn's job is football, right? And so he had a slump for a couple games. It is what it is. But guess what? It's not about how big your slump is. It's about how you dig out of that. Right? How do you dig out of that? Quinn dug out of that, I think, well last year. Last week. I don't think those 2 picks were really on him for the most part last week. And he really dug himself out of the hole this week against a very stout, Florida defense. 19 for 27, 333, and 5 touchdowns. Way to go, Quinn Ewers. But other than that, folks, man, great game. Not really too much to say because Texas thoroughly dominated. One thing that did step out to me on this game was the team speed from Texas. Seeing how fast this team was. Even my dad said, he goes, that kid, number 7, he goes, that kid plays with some speed. He looks like he's fast. So yeah, Dad, that's Isaiah Bond. And he's probably going to run a 4.2 at the combine this year. And he plays bigger than his size. So Texas has nailed down the size aspect from the offensive line, the defensive line, just the overall player size level than what we've been used to seeing here the past 5 to 10 years prior to Sark getting here. We passed the eyeball test now. Texas also passes the speed test because Texas was by far the fastest team on the field, today, and probably the fastest team on the field for every game that they've played this year. Maybe minus minus Georgia. But I also think that those teams were pretty equally balanced. I just think that our quarterback had a worse game than the other quarterback, and it was what it was. But our quarterback bounced back today. Texas wins 49-17. Leave the comments, man, here in the chat. Let me know what you think, man. Texas 49-17 stomping over the University of Florida. But on that note, folks, man, we're going to end this like we end this all the time, man. Don't be afraid to fail. Outgrow your environment. Understand your brilliance. Ninos Corner, man. We are out, and them horns are always up. Hook them all day long. Go Longhorns. We got a game next week. Let's go ahead and get this dub against Arkansas. Hook them.